The basement that's colder than it should be. It was the first thing Olivia noticed when she moved in the cold. Not the crisp chill of autumn or the dry bite of winter, but something deeper. The kind of cold that seemed to come from inside the walls. It crept up through the floorboards above the basement, especially at night when the rest of the house felt still. She figured it was poor insulation, maybe a vent that needed sealing. The place was old, after all. The listing had said vintage charm, but that was just code for no one's touched it in decades. At first, she avoided going down there. The stairs were narrow, the railing wobbled, and the single bulb overhead flickered whenever she pulled the chain. The basement was unfinished cement floor, stone walls, shelves lined with dusty jars full of God knows what. But what stood out the most was how much colder it was, even compared to the rest of the house. Olivia measured it one evening out of curiosity. Upstairs was a cozy 68 degrees. The basement? 38, almost freezing. And there was no logical explanation. No draft, no open windows. The furnace was working perfectly. She brought in a contractor just to be safe. He spent an hour walking around, tapping walls, checking airflow. When he came back upstairs, he looked pale. Said something about strange insulation and dead zones before leaving in a hurry. He didn't charge her. He also didn't answer her calls after that. Things got worse the more time she spent there. Items from upstairs would end up in the basement, books, shoes, even a kitchen knife once. She thought she was misplacing things until she left a scarf on the couch one night and found it neatly folded on the basement steps the next morning. That same day, she noticed frost on the inside of the basement window. It hadn't snowed in weeks. Then came the knocking. It was soft at first, barely there, like someone gently tapping the underside of the floor late at night. Tap, tap, pause. Tap, tap, tap. She thought it was the pipes, maybe animals in the walls, but the rhythm was too deliberate, too human. When she pressed her ear to the floor, it stopped immediately. Then, just as she turned away, it resumed, this time louder, closer. She stopped going downstairs after that, locked the basement door, and shoved a chair under the knob. But the cold didn't stay down there. It began to spread. First the kitchen, then the living room. Eventually, even her bedroom had that same sharp chill. She could see her breath when she woke up, and every night the knocking grew louder. One night she heard the chain light click on by itself. She froze in bed, too scared to move. A low hum followed, rising from below like a growl made of wind. Then the smell hit her, damp earth, rot, something metallic. She finally worked up the courage to peek over the railing. The basement door was wide open. The light was on. And at the bottom of the stairs, something was waiting. It wasn't a person. At least not anymore. It looked like a shadow stretched too thin, with limbs that bent wrong and eyes that glowed faintly blue in the dim light. Frost clung to its shape, falling in flakes when it moved. It didn't come up the stairs. It didn't need to. Because when it looked at her, she couldn't move, couldn't blink, couldn't breathe. She passed out on the floor. When she woke up, it was morning. The basement door was closed again. The light was off. But her breath still misted in the air, and her feet were bare, wet, covered in soot and dirt like she'd been down there. She tried to leave the house that day, but every time she stepped outside, something yanked her back, an invisible force that made her stomach twist and her head pound. She couldn't cross the property line, couldn't even call for help. The landline hissed with static, and her cell phone screen cracked down the middle when she tried dialing out. Now, she lives upstairs, wrapped in blankets, candles lit at all times, eyes constantly watching the basement door. She hears it open every night now. The thing doesn't knock anymore. It doesn't need to. It's waiting. And the cold, it's still spreading.